How do contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and design professionals collect monies that are owed to them on public projects? Well, there's some basics that I think will be helpful. Are your invoices clear? Are they submitted on time? Do you send out a statement that shows what has been paid in the past, what the current invoice is, and the balance owed at this time, so that the public agency can understand what the charge is at the moment? Do you also follow the letter of the public contract that you have signed? If you submit something that does not comply with the public contract, not only will they not pay it, they don't have to pay it. They're not obligated to pay something from a public agency that does not comply with their letter and rule. In addition, think about how you can be paid. Not all public agencies are the same, but in addition to be paying by check, some of them will pay by wire transfer. Some of them will pay by credit card. There are other ways that public agencies can pay you, especially if the amounts are substantial. In addition, it's important to take a look at what the clauses are in the contract that you've signed, because in many cases they will say that certain approvals are necessary. For example, the resident engineer may have to prove something, or it may be a contracting officer within the public agency that also has to sign off on it. So understand that not just your invoice, but the process by which the public agency will process that invoice. Now, if you haven't been paid, certainly you can escalate it from a phone call to an email to a formal letter, request for a meeting, an in-person meeting, escalating it to a higher person within the authority or agency, or if necessary, having a lawyer write a demand letter. These are all steps that you need to take. But remember, when you're taking those steps, the time is ticking on your ability to file other documents with the court that may allow you to collect the money. And if you don't file them on time, you will not be paid. Now, you have some weapons that have been given to you by the legislature, who recognizes the prompt payment of public works contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and design professionals are important to be able to keep the progress of the job moving. And those statutes are contained in a variety of places. And those statutes are different for actually almost every public agency that you can imagine. So we're going to walk through some of those, but keep in mind that these statutes change. There are regulations that go with some of these, and so you need to always talk to a lawyer or have somebody within your organization that stays up on these statutes. The first ones are prompt payment. And prompt payment, again, as I've said, is so important. And with regard to the state of California, prompt payment of your normal invoices, a direct contractor, meaning a general contractor, it's used these days as word direct contractor, meaning contracting directly with the owner, within 30 days. That's under Public Contracts Code 10261.5. And it can be protested, but generally if it's an uncontested invoice, it should be paid in that manner. Retention also should be paid within 60 days under Section 7107 of the Public Contracts Code. So those are good weapons. And then the progress payments generally need to be made within 7 days under Business Professions Code 7108.5 to the subcontractors. So if you receive a progress payment, you need to be able to pay it to your subcontractors on time. Then you can withhold, owner can withhold 150% of that amount. But the Supreme Court of California specifically has clarified that to say that the dispute has to be about the retention that's owed. It can't be about some extraneous thing. It can't be about something that has nothing to do with the retention, a warranty claim or a claim for additional costs by the subcontractor or the general contractor. That's not the sort of dispute that is contemplated by the term good faith dispute in these statutes. Now, the next area is payments by public utilities. And again, these projects are quite different in the different types of agencies that do public utilities work in this state. But interestingly enough, under 8802 of the Public Contracts Code, the payment for contractors for progress payments has to be within 21 days, so 3 weeks of receipt. Again, the good faith dispute provision is in that statute as well, but it has the same provision about having to do with the retention itself. Under the Cal State University rules For CSU projects, it's 39 days. As I said, these vary widely. And that's under Public Contracts Code 10.853. Under local public works projects, the rules are, again, back to 30 days after the receipt of an undisputed and properly submitted payment request. And again, the good faith assertion of a problem has to be done by the public agency within 7 days, and the invoice returned during that period so it can be looked at and resubmitted. Now, with regard to design professionals, the code also allows them to request a prompt payment under 3319 of the Civil Code. In addition, on a public project, the architect or engineer may have the right to file a stop payment notice or a claim on a bond under Section 9100 of the Civil Code. Now, what happens once you find that you just can't collect the money? What happens is you have some additional rights under the code. And under the code, we don't have mechanics lien rights against public agencies in most cases. And I say in most cases because if there's some private interest, you may attempt to lien it, and it has been successful in some cases. For example, if there's a private lease that's involved in the construction project and it's not public property, that can often be liened. Or if there's a ship lease, that has been famously down at the Queen Mary, that ship lease was subject of a lien many, many years ago. But in general, there's no mechanics liens. What we have instead are a series of statutes that have to do with payment bonds and stop notices. And I will not go through those in detail, but to say that they again have a profound number of specific technical requirements. In general, a payment bond is posted by the general contractor in most cases, and it assures the payment of labor and materials for the project. And you essentially sue the contractor, you sue the payment and materials bond. In many cases, they also have a performance bond. Sometimes it's a unitary bond. But you sue them, and you sue the surety, and the surety stands in the shoes of the contractor as a guarantor if they can't pay it. And often if the general contractor is in financial trouble, the surety will step in and actually finish the project. So the payment bond is a very powerful tool for subcontractors and for suppliers as well. Stop notice is a little bit different. If you properly file a stop notice with the public agency, it will stop payment to the general contractor. That will essentially make the public agency a holder of the funds until the dispute gets resolved. And again, if you follow the rules correctly, that money will be essentially preserved for you for the work that you've done. You also have to keep in mind that you need to file a lawsuit within relatively short periods of time of when you file your demand on the payment bond or on the stop notice, and you need to keep track of that, otherwise your rights to pursue those remedies will be waived. Generally, however, the statute of limitations on a breach of contract suit in California is 4 years. So you can pursue the party you contracted with for up to 4 years on a written contract, 2 years on an oral contract. But if you want to get to the actual owner and to the owner property, then you have to file in accordance with the stop notice and bond proceedings.